Hey y'all, it's your girl Booney, and you're listening to the Booney Breakdown Podcast, your source for all things responsible and ratchet. All right. Welcome to this week's episode. We have a great guest. I think I say this every time I have a guest, but I love when I finally get to have people on that I've had a touch point with at some point along my journey. And this week we have Naza Shelley. She is a CEO, speaker, attorney, and matchmaker. Yes, she is the CEO and founder of Carpe Diem Dating. It is a dating app. And we have a great conversation where we talk about the state of dating. We talk about the state of dating as for Black women, about her journey as a Black matchmaker. We talk about dating apps, meeting men in real life. And I even had to ask her about the ratio. The ratio. We know that the male to female ratio for those in heterosexual relationships, it is off tilt. And we talk all about it. So stick around for that conversation. All right, we are going to get into just a reminder. I know I always did pick of the week, but I just feel like the state of the world, sometimes I want to rant. And so this week we have a drag of the week. And my drag of the week is, when did we really just abandon science? Like, when did everyone just say, fuck science? How are there measles outbreaks? Like, how are we regressing so much where common sense is just left? I've been alive 40 years. Like, I've never even heard of measles outbreaks. Like, why are things that we have cured and eradicated now a thing? Like, so when did we say fuck science? This is my drag of the week. We saw the beginning of that backlash with the pandemic. And even right now, like, COVID is on the rise. Like, the spikes are insane, the number of new cases. And I just keep having to ask, when did we just say fuck science? When did we abandon the nerds, the specialists, the subject matter experts who do all this great work to keep us alive and healthy? When did we just say fuck all of them? I'm not comprehending. I'm on the trains. I'm in the places. I'm back to wearing masks because I don't want to be sick, because I saw the science behind that. And I don't even know if that's just fucking science, but if you put a filter over your nose and mouth, it blocks stuff from getting into your system. And so when I'm hearing people, and you would think after a pandemic that people would be a little bit more thoughtful about covering their mouths, cleaning their hands, using antibacterial, the creams, and even just if you're not going to wash your hand, at least squirt your hand with some Purell. But that no one does. There's no care. They're just coughing and breathing and putting their particles out in the air with no regard for anyone else near them. I don't know, guys. That's my drag of the week. I'm just befuddled as to how we got here. I really and truly am. So I say all that to say, trust science, trust the scientists. They know more than I do. They know more than you do. So I just don't understand this goddamn backlash.
Housekeeping. Come back later, please. Housekeeping? Not now.
All right, so we got some good feedback from last week's episode with Sheikah, Guilty Pleasures and Cult Classics. We did a shit that hits different, and we watched Showgirls. Somebody said, Booney, I cannot even believe that you and Sheikah even watched that movie. It is so goddamn terrible. But I gotta agree, Booney, that one lap dance scene, the same. When I rewatched it a few years ago, I was like, ooh, she's kind of hot. But I just can't even believe you guys watched it. But I enjoyed the episode. So if you did not check it out, go back and listen to last week's episode. We revisit Showgirls, and we just have a good little girlfriend's kiki. All right, just a reminder, we're having book club on Patreon on March 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're reading our past guest, Dr. Candace Nicole's book, Good Sex. So if you want to get in on that conversation, Dr. Candace Nicole herself will be with us for our book club session and our book club discussion. So you can head on over to patreon.com/the Boonie Breakdown in order to join. And yeah, I hope you join us. We love have a good discussion. Even with our Patreon, we have a good Discord. We have a lot of great conversations. So head on over and join the Ratcheteer gang. Also, if you would like to support right now, you can use the merch code. We have some great sweatshirts and mugs and journals and little ratchet note cards. We have a lot of great merch over on the booniebreakdown.com/shop. And right now you can use the code season14. That's season14 to save 20% on all orders over $30. All right. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. I appreciate you listening. Be sure to follow us on social media. We're most active on Instagram at The Boonie Breakdown. You can follow us on Facebook as well if that's your jam, but we're mostly housed on Instagram. All right. So that's it for me. And let's get ready to break it down. So, guys, this episode, I always love having people that I know, but I haven't met in real life, and I don't know how that's worked yet. So, welcome, Naza Shelley, to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there.
So, some of you may remember back in the pandemic, which was eons ago, it feels like, I did a host thing for Lovecast, which was Naza's baby, and it was so fun to do. And that's probably my first introduction to Carpe Diem and Naza and her whole dating. I don't know, you're a matchmaker.
Yeah.
You weren't a matchmaker then, but you're a matchmaker now. So we're gonna get there. So how did you find yourself in this space? I know you're an attorney by trade, but how did we get here?
You know, it's just shared struggle and trying to find relationships. You know how it is. They say, the solutions are born out of personal frustration. And so I can definitely attest to that. I'm like you said, I'm an attorney and I was dating in DC and I was doing all the things. And I was like, it's so hard to like find and meet someone. And so I would turn to my friends and like we're all lamenting the same things. And I feel like to some extent it's only gotten worse since I had this initial revelation in 2017 or whatever. And so I don't know, I always have this like unmitigated gall to think that I can like do whatever I want. And so I was,
because you can.
No, I can't. Why not? Why not me? Why can't I? And so I was just like, why can't I? Why not make a dating app? Right, that I think addresses a lot of the problems that I personally am facing. And then when I talk to my friends, they're saying the exact same things about low quality matches, lack of engagement, people ghosting them, people not being who they say it. So the catfishing, the danger that we face online dating. And so I was like, there has to be a way to align like a business objective with like the objectives of like the people. And I think that like on dating apps, like the objectives are misaligned. Like the motivation for a dating company is not to like help you find a relationship, right? Like they need to keep you on the platform, they need to keep you swiping, they need to keep you engaged, they need to give you dopamine hits. And so that's not aligned with like the people on the platform's desire to have real meaningful connection. And so I was like, how do I build something that like aligns, my desire to help people and like their desire to meet someone?
No, I love that. I mean, we're all in the struggle together. You mentioned you're in DC, I'm in Baltimore. And yes, I remember, Love is Blind DC. When that came, people were like, is it really that bad there? And I'm like, yeah. I thought that was pretty accurate.
It's so funny. I just told you off camera that I'm at Arlo Hotel for like their opening night. I'm on the rooftop. I meet 3 of the guys from Love is Blind: Tyler, Ramses, and Bowden. So like I just like 5 minutes ago. So it's just hilarious. So funny. I mean, it's Love is Blind is everywhere. And so
yes,
it's the
Ramses
culture.
really frustrated me because I felt like he did that with like some guys do like the bait and switch. Like he saw that he was not interested, but he went to get what he wanted and then
Yeah.
was like, "You're too much." Like,
Yeah, yeah,
so frustrating.
yeah.
We also
I
saw the tea leaves with Tyler and Ashley, like, girl.
It's so funny because after meeting them just now, like, they're actually so nice and approachable and really, like, kind, and it was a very brief interaction, but, like, they seem very down to earth, and so I'd actually love to, like, sit down and just have a conversation with each of them just to be like, what's the real? Because, you know, I did a lot of commentary on Love is Blind and we all watched the
You
show.
did, yeah.
But you know, because you worked on Lovecast, what it's like to produce a show. And it's not cut and dry. So like we know that to get the best content, to get something that's entertaining, there's a fine line, right? Like you want to show the truth and like the real interactions, but the editing and all that stuff, and I'm not making any excuses. I'm just saying I would love to have like a little powwow with them to be like, what's real, like, what's y'all's real perspective on some of this? Like nothing for the cameras, nothing to be shared, just like real raw, like what really happened. I think that that would be really, really interesting to get their perspective.
I think it would be too because, yes, it was entertainment at the end of the day, so I'm sure they had to make it a little spicy, but, yeah, it's interesting that you see them. It's funny, I was somewhere recently and saw Marissa,
Oh,
and
okay.
so it's like, yeah, seeing them around, it's like,
hmm
oh, but,
I was in Miami last year and like literally was walking to dinner and saw Marshall. So it's like
they're like little.
it's kind of cool, like to run into people in person and be like, I watched your journey on Love Is Blind. So
Would you ever do Love Is Blind?
you know, I've been approached to do a couple of dating shows, and I just don't know. Um,
Like,
I'd
do them as a contestant or to
Yeah,
do them as, like, a matchmaker? Okay.
as a contestant. And so to me, I kind of feel like I'm more aligned with like doing it as like a matchmaking professional or something like Millionaire Matchmaker or something like that more so than being on a show. But then I also feel like I'm looking for love too, right? So I don't think there's necessarily any harm in considering something like that, but it's not really what necessarily comes to my mind is like let me be on one of these reality shows. Um but I think it could be fun. I could think it could be fun. I would never say like never, but yeah, it's not really top of mind for me.
Yeah, I always said, like, I would do it on some random thing, but I'm
Mhm.
like, "Could I really?" I don't know. Like, it's fun to say, like, because mine, I don't think I could do Love Is Blind,
Mhm.
but maybe, like, what's the other one everyone talks about?
Ready to love?
Yeah, like, Ready to Love, because 'cause they're going
Mhm.
to Philly, right? Next.
I don't know.
I
Yeah,
think they're
probably.
going
Yeah.
somewhere else, but yeah, something like that, yeah, but I don't know, or Married at First Sight or I don't know if I could do those, that's too.
They had a show on Netflix for, like, a hot second, and it was, like, based in New York in the 1st season, and it was, like, the person would go on 3 different dates, and at the end, they were, like, pick I would have done that.
Now that I could do
I don't
too.
remember
Remember
the name of
those?
that I don't remember the name of that show,
I
though, but
can't remember the name of it either, but I was talking to somebody because they were like, "This whole new phenom." I'm like, "No, no, 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 run it back. Remember
Mhm,
we used to have, like, Blind Date,
mhm,
Fifth
mhm,
Wheel." It used to be
mhm,
all these dating
mhm.
shows. I loved Blind Date.
Yes.
I know they tried to bring it back recently, and I don't
Mhm.
think it went
Didn't like
far,
that?
but yeah, I'm like, I used to love all those shows, Fifth Wheel. It was another one, they would all come back to back,
Mm.
so reality dating shows have been around for a
Oh,
while.
yes,
A
yes.
very
I mean, and we'll get to it, but, we're doing the dating game on Saturday, and so that's literally based on the reality TV show from, like, the '80s or '90s or whatever, where they were on T or '70s, maybe it was even. But that was, when they had game show television, and so
Yeah,
they had, the different couples games, so, yeah, none of it's
none
new,
of
but I
it's
think I
new.
think I think people are craving again, like reality TV, like real connection, like in-person events and being able to like meet in person after a long period of people just kind of being like dating apps and Instagram DMs and all that stuff. And so I think now people are more gravitating to like, how can I really meet someone and catch a vibe in person? So that's really important for us as a team to be able to provide those opportunities to people in our community.
I love that. Especially it's concentrated for Black women, right?
Mhm.
And we hear all these statistics about Black women, most aren't married. I can't quote anything offhand, but even I was looking like I read a statistic recently that was like back in 1980, only 6% of Americans age 40 had never been married.
Mhm.
And now it's like 25% of
Yep.
Americans age 40 have never been married. So it's
Mhm.
not just affecting Black women, right? It could be a lot of reasons. People are just choosing to stay single, the struggle to
Mhm.
get us a
Mhm.
partner. But I do like that your focus is on Black women finding quality
Mhm.
partners. I'm sure that was intentional for you, or was it? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
No, it absolutely was.
yeah.
So, it was out of my own struggle, like I said, like, I even looked at, okay, what may I can use a matchmaking service at the time that I was single, which is one of the catalysts for me creating a dating service or a dating app myself, and I was like, there was nothing for us, and even to this day, if you search, there's nothing for us besides Carpe Diem, right? And so there's like BLK app, right? Or but there's nothing that's really catered towards helping professional Black women find meaningful connections. And so to me, I feel like we're in a very important space, and it's because we talk to women all the time and men, and they really crave the companionship. They want to be married. They want healthy connections and healthy relationships. They're willing to invest the time, money, and energy for a different type of experience. So it was really important for us, and it remains really important for us that we serve, like we have a service mindset as we kind of help Black women because it's nuance, right? It's not just, um, okay, these women this is for Black women. It's like there's so much that we face and that so much that's put on us, like societal standards, beauty standards.
Oh
There's
yeah.
a lot of infighting, perceived or real, within our own community, right? There's a lot of like, do Black men even like us? Like, who likes us? Who wants to be with us? Like, and so all of that kind of enhances anxiety. We see a lot of anxiety. We see a lot of just like, I prefer to say anxiety than fear around, will it happen for me? Right. And like, I think for a lot of different women, and I won't speak necessarily for them, like there's less anxiety about like whether or not it will happen for them. And I think for us, it's more palpable because the thing
Yeah.
is when you say for every one Black man, there's six eligible Black women, that is a sobering reality to know that you're pretty much in constant competition. And if you walk around DC, you in competition. You know what
You
I'm saying?
listen.
It's a competition. Like, because these women are beautiful, accomplished, can hold a conversation, are well traveled. You know what I'm saying? Like going to therapy, keeping themselves physically fit, like have amazing support systems and everything. So it's like they definitely have what it takes. And so it's really difficult when you see them having to then compete for like the shot, right? Like at that one guy. And men are enjoying men that are relationship minded and eligible candidates are enjoying the imbalance, right? And it's not something that we can really blame them for, right? Because if it was imbalanced the other way, who's to say that we wouldn't equally enjoy like that power dynamic on our
You
side?
said that so nice, the imbalance, right? I love it. But it's true, right? Like the odds are in their favor to
Yeah.
find someone more eligible to be a partner, and
Mhm.
it sucks. Like I can't even lie. Like I can look at my friend circle and we're probably right at that percentage. What is it, like 40% of Black women
Mhm.
are in a relationship?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think if I added up 10 of us, it's probably 3 or 4 that are in, like, long
Mhm.
term relationships. The rest, we in the struggle, and like you said, I'm sure you're familiar with this, the group on Facebook, like, "Don't
Are we
date."
dating? Oh, are we dating the same Black guy?
Yes,
Or don't date him, sis? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and it's so funny, not funny, but it's just like, damn, like, this is where it is that.
Mhm.
But yeah, when you say the numbers like that, it makes sense. Now, I'm gonna use this because I
Mhm.
get so often, "Booney, why don't you do singles events? Booney,
Mhm.
why don't you do this?" And I said, I don't think I know enough single guys.
Mhm.
They're like, no, you do. So I asked a few of my single guys, quote
Mhm.
unquote, and they're like, I would never come. And I'm like, why?
Mm,
And they're like, because I have a high probability of running into multiple women that I'm talking to.
mhm.
So I can't go to a singles event.
Mhm.
And I'm like, there goes that imbalance. I'm gonna start
Mhm.
using that
Yeah,
word.
imbalance is demure.
But yeah, that's the imbalance in
Yeah.
action, right? So it's like you can have these singles events, right? And I know you do them often down in DC. And I'm curious, like, what do your numbers look like at your event? Is it an imbalance or do you try to like cap it
Mhm.
so we block off women so it's some
Yeah.
equity there?
So it really depends. That's a great question. There's always a push to bring more men out, and where it's always top of mind. And so it's funny because 'cause I'll have conversations with partners and stuff, and they're like, "Yeah, we had an event and somebody came up to me and was like, 'You know what would make this event better if you had more men?'" And it's like, "No shit." Like, like, we know that but it's a struggle to get men to do certain types of events. And so the reality is we could put any type of event out and women are going to show up for that event.
Hmm.
And we try so hard to cater events and stuff to things that men are going to really enjoy. So sporting events and poker and cigars and like, right. And because like, and I've talked to men and I'm like, I just went to a watch party for the Commanders Eagles
Okay.
game at MGM, full of men, right? So I'm like talking to I'm like, "Hey, we have this event coming up." Like, "Oh, no, 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 like it's dating, da, 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 no, no, no." And so I think it goes back to what you were saying that a lot of men, one, either they don't want to say that they need help, right? If they do, they don't want to admit that, and they don't want to tell that to a woman that's talking to them about coming to an event. 2, they don't need help, right? So they got a little swag, they got a little coin, right? Like, and so they would potentially bump into 2 or 3 other women that they may know at an event. Or it's just they want to hear from their guys or are other guys gonna be there? Like, my boy's gonna show up? And so it's always disproportionate men to women, but it depends on the type of event on how we structure it. So if we're doing a speed dating event, then we try to structure it so it's gonna be half men and half women, right?
Okay.
If we're doing a larger event where we're not really guaranteeing that there are gonna be a lot of men there, right? Like, we're not really couching it as an event for you to come and date men, like, it's just an event, right? And it happens to be around something that singles would kind of come to, then we're less concerned about there being an equal number of men or women, but we still push, right, to bring as many men out into the space as possible. And I also tell women too, and I'm like, don't focus on how many men there are. Like, women will come up to me after an event or something, and they'll be like, well, there weren't, as always, there were more women here than men. And I'm like, that's a reality that you have to accept. So if you're coming into a space and saying, well, there should be 50% men, why? What makes you think that? What makes you
Yeah.
think that you're entitled to have equal numbers of men and women when we know in the real world it's not equal? So why would it
Okay, drag us then. Go ahead and drag us.
I'm gonna drag just a little bit, right? So what if it's not equal in the real world, why would you think at an event it has to be equal? I tell women just to focus on if you're in a space and you see a guy that you think you are attracted to, focus on making yourself open and available to a conversation or an attraction, right? So you don't need to be like there needs to be half men or half women. No, is there one guy? Is there two guys in that space that you are interested in? And do you have the skills, right, to attract them, to spark up a conversation, and to move that type of relationship forward? A lot of women, I think, want an imbalance of men to women or more men because then it will force men to talk to them or right it'll force men to engage with them and I'm like no 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 you have to have the skill sets to attract men regardless of if you're in a sea of them or if it's the opposite and you're a woman within a lot of other women, right? So I think that a lot of women can work on their personability, their ability to approach without it seeming like they're hitting on men, which I something that I do all the time and coach clients on, can really kind of change your perspective. And the last thing I'll say about the imbalance is women go to events looking to date. So they will say, I want to go to this single speed dating event. Men do not need an event to go to date. Men leave the house every day. It's opportunity. She's at the gas station, she's at the grocery store, she's at the car wash, she's at the gym in an appropriate setting. I pass her in the mall, I pass her on the metro, on a walk to work. So my question is, men think of all that as an opportunity. I was just parking my car for this event and coming up the ramp, and a guy was like, "Hi." You know what I'm saying?
I
So
mean, you preaching right now.
so the question is, when you are out and about in the world, and if you understand that men have this mentality, are you always making yourself open and approachable? So are you in your phone? Are you, resting bitch face, right? Are you like, or do you have that skill set to let people know, like, you are open, right? And you are approachable. And so I'm not trying to put everything on women. I just don't want us to live in a space of excuses, right? Where the excuse is there's not enough men, because that's not true, right? It's true there's an imbalance, right? It's not true that you cannot find a viable partner because of this imbalance.
So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna take the drag a little bit because I fall in that thing too because it is sometimes you go out, you be like, oh, there's not enough
Mhm.
testosterone in here, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I'm also not the type that I won't approach a guy. I'm not above that,
Mhm.
and I can do a little flirt, engage in conversation. I'm not above any of that at all, but I do fall in that sometimes where I'm like,
Mhm.
it's so many women. But you're right. That is just the world we're going to have to navigate in this dating space. One thing I think also true too, because I tell some of my friends like, "Well, did you introduce yourself? Like, we'll leave," and they're like, "He was cute," and I'm like, "Did you say something?"
Hard?
'Cause I don't have anything to lose. Like, they don't
Mhm.
know me.
Mhm.
So I mean, you'll shoot your shot. And I think another piece too is like you said, as men navigate the world, it's an opportunity where we feel like
Mhm.
we have to go to something. It has to be
The
this
right time,
step.
the right
Yeah.
setting, the appropriate place, and it's
And
not.
that's where I'll
Mhm.
meet. But for me, it's like I am understanding, right? Like I may not always have a little red lip on. I might be dry faced when I go to the grocery store, but Imma spray some perfume on or something. At least Imma smell good, right?
Mhm.
Because the Wegmans be jumping. The
I'm
Wegmans
telling
be
you.
jumping, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
you do have to be open, especially for somebody like me who I have dating app fatigue.
Mhm.
Dating apps, I don't like the cadence. It's like the rhythm of it. It's something for me, it doesn't work. And I'm learning, surprise, surprise,
Surprise,
that
surprise.
my humor sometimes does not translate for people who don't know me, right?
Mhm.
And so I just do better in person with
Mhm.
those initial because it's like, okay, I can reel you in
Mhm.
a little bit
Mhm.
better than I am on a phone.
Mhm.
I'll take it. So, the other thing I think too is like men are a little bit more comfortable with rejection
Yes, absolutely.
than women are, right? Like we don't
Yeah.
want to say like, "Oh, I took a shot and was flirty," and he was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, it was nice talking," and walked
Yeah.
away, right?
But it's to me, I'm kind of like, we have to become comfortable with putting ourselves out there in the most appropriate way, right? And so I feel like some women think that they have to go up and be like, "Yo, show," like it's not. You don't bring the you. You're not bringing the male energy, right? So it's never rejection because you're never like, "Can I get your number?" Right? So it's never rejection. It's just a lack of him closing the deal or him approaching you, right? Or him like finishing when you opened it up. And so I I try to tell people, I'm like, it's a skill, right? Like, and just like men have developed the skill of just taking the shot, right? And if they brick, they brick, right? And they kind of move on to the next. Women have to develop a skill of the alley oop, right? The skill of the like assist, right? And like if you never do anything to assist to like set them up for success to approach you, it becomes you the person that may not get approached, right? Especially if you ain't the person that they gonna push through the room to get to in the first place, right? And so that's not doesn't make you undesirable, right? That just means that you may have to develop the skill, right, to make it known that you're open and you're available.
I like that, the skill set to attract men.
Mhm.
Somebody gonna hit you up just off that alone now. Yeah, I think, this is a good conversation, right? And you just gave me in this a bright side to returning to the office 5 days a week, is that
Mhm.
I'll be outside more.
Mhm. Yep.
So, because I struggle. I am a homebody, especially
Mhm.
in these cold, dark months.
Mhm.
And my home is cozy, and I put a lot of money into my house, and I love it here, and I pay that
Mhm.
mortgage every month. So I like to spend time here, but unless he gonna be the UPS driver,
Right? Mhm. Or the burglar. I mean, I don't think he's either. He's neither of those.
if it's not them, then who?
Mhm.
So I have been saying like, okay, if you're not gonna do the dating apps, then what you doing,
Mhm.
sis?
Yeah. And we encourage people to do that right? So we want you to be on Carpe Diem, but we also want you to be out in the world, right? And by being out in the world, that's, taking yourself to the bar to have a tea, coffee, cocktail, whatever it is. And that's another thing. I talk to women all the time. They don't have the skill set to do things solo.
I was about to ask you that
They don't.
because I've seen that too, where sometimes you never know your friends is cock blocking, not even cock. You don't even know it
Mhm.
because you're so insulated in your friend group when you go out that
Mhm.
men don't feel comfortable
Mhm.
approaching. I've heard that a lot. Or you'll see somebody you locking eyes, and it's not until you go to the bar or you go to the bathroom and he gets you alone is
Mhm.
when the exchange happens.
Mhm.
So I think that is a good skill. One of my friends will quickly always tell people, I meet people, I just go like when I want to get some dinner, I'll go sit at the bar by myself.
By yourself. By yourself. Have the correct body language. When someone looks at you, you do the double look, you do the smile, right? You do the look that's just long enough to be a little uncomfortable, right? To let them know, like the double take, like look back again. You position your
See,
body to be open towards them.
Imma send this to my friend because I told them, I was like, "You gotta do the look away, look
Look.
long, and look away."
Mhm.
And she was
Mhm.
like, "What?" I said, "'Cause you'll see them and you look away,
Mhm.
but they'll still be looking at you.
Yeah.
So then when you look back, you hold it, you smile, you wink,
Mhm.
something, and then you look away again.
Mhm.
That's all. That communicates, "Hey, pull up."
And women, the easiest thing, and this is something I do, I play damsel in distress all the time. And you, if you do not know how to approach men, just play a little bit of damsel in distress. I need help. Hey, can you hold my drink while I like hop up on this stool? Hey, what are you drinking? Like, I haven't been here before. You're not hitting on them, right? Like, hey, what's good to eat here? Right? Like, that's not, can I get your number? Right. But it opens the conversation. And so if you say something that is innocuous otherwise, right? But then take a look and they're like, all right, like let me tell her all about what's on this menu, right? You can catch the vibe that they're kind of like they're interested, right? And so
Yep.
you've lost nothing. You have not been rejected, right? They just did not close the gap, right? And so for women who have that fear of rejection, just work on a couple of intro lines that you can deliver effortlessly, like, "Hey, is that scotch or whiskey?" Right? Like, "Oh, what's your favorite cocktail to have here?" "What's that you're eating? It looks really tasty." Yeah.
More tips. I
It
hope somebody learning something. Because it is a muscle that you have to use to
Mhm,
flirt. And like you said, it doesn't always have to be, "Hello, I'm single. What's your name?"
mhm,
But I think those were all great suggestions if you're out in a social environment. Um, Before we wrap up, I
mhm.
do wanna have one conversation with you. This was all great tips, but some dating advice. I know you hear all this stuff. Do you believe in timetables? Like, are you strict with like, okay, after 3 dates or 3 weeks, we need to be exclusive, and then 2 to 3 months we're committed? Like, are you a timetable dater or no?
Yeah. I'm about positive momentum going in the right direction, right? And so I'm not gonna tell you it's 3 weeks, it's 3 dates, right? But when a man is locked in, right, a lot of these questions that we're always asking ourselves become irrelevant because he does all the things that we're expecting him to do without us asking, right? And so a couple
Uh,
a couple of things I try to help women understand is one, you can set these timetables for yourself, but I'm never about giving a man an ultimatum because an ultimatum to me is removing his choice and the things that he does should be done free of his own volition and his desire, right?
mm,
So the question just is, it's your job to recognize his behavior and decide if you wanna continue to take part in the direction it's going, and that doesn't mean that you don't speak up, you never course correct, you never share your experience or, like, your preferences, but for some things, I think it should come naturally to a man after a certain period of time that he doesn't want you single on the streets, still potentially sleeping with other men. That's a no-brainer, right? Like, if he's developing feelings for you, you can, of course, put reasonable timeframes around everything, right? Like, if you're consistently dating for a month, like, and you feel like, "Hey, like, let's have this conversation about where is this going?" But a lot of times these things come naturally from men, and I want women to think about that guy that really liked you. We've all met him. We've all been in a relationship, encountered him. He really liked you, and think about the level of clarity the
mm,
amount of like that he had for you provided for you, right? He liked you so much that you knew when you were gonna see him again, right? You knew you didn't have to worry about if he was gonna pay for the date, if y'all was gonna go Dutch. You knew
that
what
part.
his schedule was like. You knew that he cared about you because he did all the things that made it very clear to you. Now think about the guy who you really liked, but did not
Mm,
really fuck with you. Right? And so then, I don't know what we are. I'm not exactly sure. You've talked to 7 of your girlfriends and told him about his behavior that's confusing you, and you don't know how to bring it up to him that you're not sure what you are and, like, is he still seeing other women? That state of confusion is not a good place to be in, and it undergirds potentially that he doesn't have that desire for you, right? That we've all experienced. And so my question for a lot of women is, what zone do you wanna be in? You wanna be in the zone of clarity, right? And so you follow the path of people that keep you in that zone, or because you really like him, you now putting up with all kinds of foolishness, and you confused, and you crashing out. So I just want women to take that type of analysis and apply that to when they say like, "Oh, well, I don't wanna be a girlfriend for 2 years." Well, why would you be a girlfriend for 2 years for a guy that really, really is liking you without some clarity around his own timeline, right? Like, or, "I don't know if we're exclusive." Why wouldn't you know if y'all are exclusive? If he doesn't want you potentially sleeping with other people, he's gonna bring that conversation. So I think we make things harder sometimes than they actually need to be.
yeah, we do. We definitely do. Because I've been having this conversation with friends recently, and I'm gonna get your input on
Mhm,
this if you have thoughts. So, like, for me, we were talking about, is there a difference from being exclusively dating to being in a relationship?
mhm,
And I said, for me, yes. I said, for me, if we're exclusively dating, I may not have cut everyone off, but I've stopped dating them. If we were hooking up, I've stopped all of that, but I may still communicate, right? I didn't
mhm,
tell anybody just yet that I'm
mhm,
off the market. But to me, I need to hear a man say, I am your boyfriend, you are my girlfriend, will you be
mhm,
my girl? Something, some
mhm,
declaration so there's no gray area. And at that point, when we
mhm,
have that exchange, all right, everybody, goodbye. I'm off
mhm.
the market. I'm in a relationship. But to me, it is a difference in those
Okay.
stages. I am curious from the lips of a matchmaker what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, I think that there are differences between those 2 situations, and I always take things back to clarity and clear communication, right? And so when there's not clarity and communication, then there's room for gray areas. And some people use gray areas to their advantage, right?
Mm.
I
That's what men
oh,
do, because they
women
can
do it too. Women do it.
that's true, because
I
I do
didn't
too.
I I didn't know that we were exclusive. I didn't know that, like, I couldn't sleep with anybody else. I didn't know that I was supposed to, and so even though they know the vibe that y'all got going, they know that y'all playing house, that y'all together all the time, that you damn near saying I love you to each other, but they use the gray, right, to be able to continue to excuse inappropriate behavior. And so to me, I'm kind of like, yeah, just have the conversation. Like, you know, uh, if it's and it doesn't have to be conversation where you're like, "What are we?" Right? It could be a conversation where you're coming from your own boundary, right, and your own perspective. Like, "Hey, I just wanna let you know that, like, for me, I consider myself to, uh I like to have a conversation to provide parameters around my relationships, and no pressure on you to, like, make a decision either way, but I just want you to know that I would love to have that conversation if and when you're ready. Otherwise, right, I'm considering that, I'm still single, right?
I
So
mean, she's
in
giving y'all the tools and the verbiage, because I love that, right? I do that. I do check-ins, like, people who I'm dating know that. Like, I'll say, "I'm gonna check in
Mhm,
'cause I need to make sure we're on the same page."
mm,
That's literally what I say. And so I will check in. We're dating, we're exclusive, what's happening
yeah,
here?
mhm,
What's the intention? Okay, we're exclusive, got it.
got it. Mhm.
But I always check in because people get hurt and burned in the gray area.
Yeah, it's the gray area, and people like to live in that because it excuses their behavior while still holding on to something that they're interested in. But I think the best thing that anybody can do for themselves is to push things into a black and white area and then just be ready to make a decision based on that outcome, right? So if you're like, this doesn't work for me, right? Like, it doesn't work for me that you're sleeping with me and still sleeping with other people. But then
Yes.
what are you gonna do about it, right? You can't then keep sleeping with the man or the woman, right? So I think a lot of times people will let the confusion persist because they don't want the answer, because then the answer would require them to make a decision. And if they make the wrong decision, then it reflects poorly on their self-esteem and or decision capabilities, right? And so you have to be okay with whatever the outcome is and then still always choose what's best for you no matter what.
Mm, mm. I love that. She gave you all the tools. She gave you the verbiage. She gave you the language. Um, we're gonna do breakdown now. So
Yay.
I'm gonna say a word.
Mhm.
You can say the first thing that comes to mind. It could be another word, a phrase, a sound, a
Mhm.
guess. Anything goes.
Okay.
Okay, first one, black women.
Oh, uh, dope.
Situationship.
No, 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 no.
Compatibility.
Oh, uh, a requirement.
Agreed. Soulmate.
Mm, Disney princess.
Love.
Uh, it's a phrase, the most important thing.
Movie dates.
Cute,
Okay.
cute.
Lab grown diamonds.
Whatever's in your budget. Whatever's in your budget.
And last one, swiping.
Dead.
Ah, it's dead for me.
Yeah, dead.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Dead it.
So tell everyone where they can find you on the interwebs,
Mhm.
if they wanted to book your services, where they can do that at, and follow you on social media.
Absolutely. So we are Carpe, the letter D, the letter M, dating, one word, .com. We are Carpe Diem Dating on Instagram across all the channels. We're most active on Instagram, but also on TikTok. I am Carpe, the letter D, the letter M, boss on Instagram. Y'all really can't find me nowhere else because I don't LinkedIn. I don't really be anywhere else. You can join Carpe Diem, submit an application through our website. If you want to work with me personally, you can send a DM. We also do relationship coaching, individuals as well as for couples on top of the matchmaking. Come to an event. If you're just like, I don't know what this is all about, like, let me see what this is about, follow our Instagram and you'll be able to get updates on events that we host that are open to the public, and you can just come slide through. We have so many people that come to events and leave like literally from the event to go on a date or, meet someone at the event and then now they're in relationships. And so it's definitely absolutely possible.
It's possible. So yes, we will link all of that on the booniebreakdown.com and in the show notes. So Naza, thank you so much. I was so happy I could finally get you on here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure, my pleasure.
All right, that is it for this week's episode. I want to thank our guest, Naza Shelley. I'm telling you, if you need some assistance, you want to consider a matchmaker, I think you should reach out to her. And Naza, well, you're listening to this, we need to go ahead. Let me host one of your events, or maybe we do another love cast. I'm so down for it. Just let me know. All right. Also, remember, if you're interested in buying any merch, you can use the code season14, season14 to save 20% on all orders over $30. All right. And if you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to listen and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or anywhere that you listen to your favorites on. Don't forget to leave us 5 stars in Apple Podcasts and Spotify. 5 stars, guys. I love it. Appreciate it so much. Follow us on social media. Share the episode with those you love, those you don't love, those you fucking hate. I don't make these reels for nothing. Okay. Have a dope ass week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay sane. Thank you for listening. And remember, the ratchet in me always honors the ratchet in you. Home I stay. Until next time.